I'm Amy from Doodle Dog Designs. I sometimes get wool garments at thrift stores or secondhand stores and cut them up to use for rug hooking or wool applique. I have another video that I will put a link in the description below for that shows how I deconstruct the garments. But sometimes I end up with some interfacing that just does not want to come off, and even picking at it is just very slow. It just doesn't want to come off. And I mentioned this in my deconstruction video, and somebody suggested boiling the wool. And since this wool is already felted, it won't hurt to put it in a pot of boiling water. So I'm going to experiment and see if that works to remove the interfacing. So I have this piece here that has this big section and then just spots of interfacing everywhere, and another spot over here. And then I have this piece that has a different type of interfacing. And then I have these two red pieces here that I'm going to try and see what happens when I boil it. The water is starting to simmer, so I am going to go ahead and put this one with the little spots of interfacing stuck to it. I'm going to stick that into the water, and I'm going to press it down in with my spoon. And this is a stainless steel stock pot that I only use for crafting purposes, and my utensils also I only use for crafting. I wouldn't want to get the glue from the interfacing onto utensils that I use for food. At this point, I could already see that the dye was coming out of the fabric in this sample, so I took it out and put it on a cookie sheet, and then I waited for it to cool a little bit, and I attempted scraping the interfacing off with a pan scraper. This was not very successful, so I just put it back into the water again to let it boil a little bit longer. I took it back out of the boiling water after 20 minutes, and I let it cool off a little bit and examined it, and you could still see a little bit of the interfacing dots, but it was difficult to tell because the fabric was wet. So I let it cool off completely, and then I set it aside to dry. I did clean out the pot in between each sample. Next, I'm going to try this piece of wool that has the larger sections of interfacing attached and lots of little specks of interfacing. This has been simmering for 25 minutes, and it's interesting how little the watercolor has changed with this piece of wool. I can still see the big piece of interfacing, but I'm going to go ahead and take it out and see if it will peel off. Be sure to wait long enough that it has a chance to cool and you don't burn your fingers. But after letting it cool for just a little bit, I was able to peel that interfacing right off. That was super easy to get that off. Now I will try to pick off the little specks of interfacing and see if those come off easily. I have a fresh clean pot of simmering water, so I'm going to throw in my 2 pieces of the red and make sure they're completely submerged, and then I will set the timer. I let them simmer for about 20 minutes, and as you can see, the water has turned red. Some of the dye has come out on these pieces of wool also. I'm going to take them out now and let them cool a minute. The interfacing on these just peeled right off. So let's look at the pieces now that they're dry. This one was the black one that had the little blue spots of interfacing still on it. For whatever reason, the dye must not have been set very well in this garment, and boiling it removed a lot of the color. Here's it compared to a black piece. You can really tell the difference. It's very much blue now instead of black. You can still see a little bit of the interfacing dots, but it's definitely more usable now. This is the black that had the big sections of interfacing and then just little dots in different places, and the big interfacing did come off very easily. And but there's still some dots here and there. I think if I work at it, I can get all of the rest of those to pull off. But it is definitely much better just from the boiling. And I think if you started off boiling a piece instead of picking at it and leaving little spots and boiling it, it would be easier to pull it off, because that one piece did just pull right off and didn't leave anything behind. Here are the pieces that were red. They are pink now, so the color in them also did not hold when they were boiled. But you can still see here some of the red threads, so you can see the difference in color between the thread and the wool now. But the interfacing pulled right off. After this experiment, I think that if I have a jacket or something else that I'm deconstructing and it has some sticky interfacing that's difficult to remove, and I didn't care if the color of the fabric changed, I would go ahead and try this method of boiling. If you love the color as is and don't want to risk the color changing, you could try a little sample first. Be sure to click the like button and subscribe below. I'll see you next time. Bye.